For every single UFC division, I have gathered 8 of the best fighters in their prime, and today, in a tournament fashion, I'm going to go through each division and determine who is the best at their best. Starting with the bantamweight division, because bantamweight's pretty fun. Prime Dominic Cruz against prime Sean O'Malley. I got prime Dominic Cruz at like 2010-11, WEC right at the end of that run. And then Sean O'Malley probably just last year, probably still in his prime. This is a very interesting striking matchup. Cruz can obviously mix in the wrestling. I think he'd be smart to do so. I think speed-wise, Sean could snipe him. And the way that Dominic Cruz comes in for sure is awkward. And Cruz was fast as well. But I think just the way the sport has evolved, I think Sean O'Malley takes that and moves on to the next round. We're going to try to go reasonably quick because we've got a lot of fights to go through. Dillashaw and Garbrandt, their primes kind of line up close. I have Dillashaw's prime as like that Cody Garbrandt first fight, and then I have Garbrandt's prime as obviously the fight against Dominic Cruz. He looked amazing in that, but matchup-wise, he was almost built to beat Dominic Cruz, and TJ isn't Dominic Cruz, so I think the result would remain the same. Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling, both guys similar primes, and obviously on paper, Aljo 2 wins over Petr Yan. But let's be real, the first one, Petr was winning, and the second one, good on Aljo. But I don't think that happens every single time. I think if they fight 10 times, Petr probably wins 7 or 8 of those. So I'm going to go with prime Petr Yan, who I have. His prime, I have him in the Corey Sandhagen fight. That's the fight I have him in. Prime Renan Barão against Merab Dvalishvili right now, kind of in his prime. I don't even think that takes much discussing. Yeah, Merab wins that fight. And the way I think I'm going to do it is we're going to move on, and then we're going to jump to a new division. So let's jump over to 185. Anderson Silva and Dricus du Plessis. Dricus right now in his prime, and Anderson Silva, I have him around the Forrest Griffin fight. And this is a horrible matchup for Dricus du Plessis, I think. Dricus is obviously big, very physical. Silva wasn't a small middleweight, as he could go up to 205 and compete. And the way the game has evolved, all of that. But Anderson Silva was probably the best counter striker that MMA has ever seen. And Dricus leaps forward with his chin right up in the air. And he's been hit, but he hasn't really been punished. I'm going to go with Anderson because I think Anderson could get him on the counter. But I don't know. Dricus could also just blitz forward and tag Anderson, similar to how Chris Weidman did, just like as Anderson's leaning back. So that one's a tough matchup. I'm gonna go Anderson just out of the fact that I can't do that. I can't put Dricus as beating prime Anderson. Weidman and Romero, similar primes. Weidman was definitely a little bit out of his prime when they fought. Romero is just a horrible matchup. Stylistically, just gonna stop all the wrestling and gonna hit him with something big because Weidman's a little chinny. Adesanya and Luke Rockhold. I have Adesanya's prime as the Paulo Costa fight, and I have Luke Rockhold's prime as like leading up to his fight against Chris Weidman. Rockhold could grapple, and he could submit guys too. He was very good, and he was good on the feet as well. I think he has a lot of tall man defense, and Adesanya is the same height as him, way better striker. But the wrestling of Luke Rockhold could be interesting, and the grappling as well. This is actually one of the tougher first-round matchups that we've gone through. I don't know. I think I'll go with... You know what? I'm doing it. Rockhold by submission. He avoids getting chinned on the feet, and he submits Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker is fucked. He's facing TRT Vitor. Unfortunate for Whitaker. Now, if you have Vitor like 6 months after he's off TRT, obviously Whitaker gets this. But TRT Vitor, if you know, you know. This man was ruining people's careers like he did to Michael Bisping. And just knocking people out very viciously. So TRT Vitor moves on against the forever. Whitaker's kind of been chinny forever. He's been, like, he's always had that problem where if he gets hit, then it might be done. So TRT Vitor is moving on. We're moving on to featherweight. Prime Uriah Faber, which I have at like 2007, 2008 when he was fighting WEC against a fellow Team Alpha Male gentleman, Chad Mendes. I am going to go with Chad knocking him out. Even though Uriah probably was the one who like mentored Chad largely. Chad was a beast. He went toe-to-toe with Aldo, was just an absolute powerhouse, and I think he was a more explosive, dynamic striker on the feet than Faber. So Chad moves on. Prime McGregor, 2015 Aldo McGregor in the featherweight division against Prime Max Holloway. I have him at like 2018, maybe the second Jose Aldo fight, Brian Ortega fight. Okay, McGregor did beat Holloway. This was when they were both young bucks, little tadpoles. But Holloway, stylistically, is really bad for McGregor. Holloway's got the best chin ever, and I know he just got knocked out, but this is prime Holloway. He's got the best chin ever. McGregor, very precise. It would be a tough first 2 rounds for Holloway, I believe. But if Holloway started getting things going, he could start pouring it on, and McGregor would fade. The weight cut was really hard on McGregor, but he was getting everyone out of there in the first or second round. So I think his cardio would have even been worse if it went into a third and potentially a fourth. So I'm going Holloway. Bad matchup. Prime McGregor gets taken out in the first round. I'm sure some people in the comments will not like that. Prime Aldo and Prime Edgar. This one doesn't need to be discussed. They fought kind of close to their prime. Edgar in the featherweight division in his prime. Aldo wins this. Damn. Volk in his prime against Topuria right now in his prime. This is tough. Volk was doing well in the first, like in the Topuria fight, but he was fighting a little bit differently than we've seen him fight before. Like, not exchanging, but I think even in his prime, he would have made that decision because it's the smart one. You don't want to exchange with this guy because that's when he's at his best. And I think either way, Topuria is just too skilled, would stalk Volkanovski down in his prime or not and tag him. And I don't care what version of Volkanovski eats that punch that he ate at UFC 298, he's going to sleep. So I think Topuria moves on and beats Prime Volk. And we got some interesting matchups in this division, but we're going to hop over to 205. John Jones, he beats Prime Vanderlei. Prime Vanderlei in Pride was a killer, but come on. Anthony Johnson, Lyoto Machida. This one's interesting. Lyoto very fast, but kind of a small 205er. It was more of a middleweight. And Anthony Johnson hit like a ton of bricks. He was built in like 2015-16. That's when I have Prime Anthony Johnson when he KO'd Glover Teixeira. That is a scary man, and I think he KOs Lyoto Machida because Lyoto Machida is just too small. And I think Johnson catches him. Just maybe like as Machida blitzes in, they like run into each other, and then on the exit, Rumble. R.I.P. Rumble. Cormier and Couture. I'm going Daniel Cormier. I think he just does everything better, boxes better, wrestles better. The game has evolved. This is Cormier in 2015 against Couture in like 2003. So I'm going Cormier. And then we got a power puncher's dream fight. Chuck Liddell in his prime against Alex Pereira right now. I think this one just come on. Yes, Pereira's been KO'd by Adesanya with an overhand right. Chuck Liddell had a great right hand, but I think Liddell is too small. He's not like technical like Alex Pereira is, not even close. So we're moving Alex Pereira on. Let's hop over to the little guys, flyweights. Demetrius Johnson. He had some hard fights with John Dodson. John Dodson tagged him a few times, but beat him twice. So DJ. Cejudo and Benavidez. This is Cejudo when he beat DJ, but before that he did lose to Joseph Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez was a bad man. And maybe stylistically, even though Cejudo had evolved and Benavidez lost to Demetrius twice and Cejudo's 1-1 with him, maybe Benavidez gets it done the second time if they go prime for prime. But I think I will lean Cejudo. Davison Figueiredo in that 2020 year where he fought like 5 times against UCA Formiga. This is another one. Right before Figueiredo went on that win streak, he lost to UCA Formiga. And I have prime UCA Formiga around like 2017, 2018. He was definitely deserving of a title shot at the time. But the flyweight division kind of went interesting when Cejudo beat Johnson and then Cejudo fought TJ Dillashaw. So that was an interesting time in the division. But UCA Formiga did beat Davison Figueiredo. But I think prime Davison had a different kind of confidence about him, and I think he'd be able to get the job done if they fought again. 2021 Brandon Moreno against current Pantoja. Pantoja, I think, is just better and stylistically will always walk Moreno down and will always just make it a scrap. And they obviously had a very competitive last fight, but Pantoja, I think, is only getting better, which is scary for the division that he's dominating in. We've done... Yeah, let's go over to lightweight. Prime Conor McGregor, 2016 Eddie Alvarez Conor McGregor against prime BJ Penn. I mean, come on. The game has evolved too much. Conor's boxing. He would land some nasty counters, kick BJ Penn. I don't think BJ would be able to take him down. Yeah. This is tough because I wanted prime Tony to go far in this bracket, but he's going against Islam Makhachev, who is a favorite in this bracket, if I'm honest. I think Islam on the feet is too defensively responsible, and he could take him down probably with ease. May he get a cut on one of those sharp Tony Ferguson elbows, maybe, but it would have to be a nasty cut, and it'd have to be a doctor's stoppage kind of fluky Tony Ferguson win. But yeah, I'm going prime current Islam Makhachev. Khabib RDA, I'm going Khabib. This is when RDA had the belt, and they fought earlier, like 2013, I'm pretty sure, maybe even 2014. And Khabib won that pretty dominantly. And RDA was closer to his prime than Khabib was, in my opinion. So, yeah, Khabib's moving on. Oliveira, Poirier. These two kind of fought in their prime, and we saw what happened. Oliveira got the job done. Yes, I'm incredibly biased, but I have Poirier's prime as 2018, but you could argue his prime is 2021 after he beat McGregor twice. Going into the Oliveira fight, he could have been at his peak, but no, I have Oliveira. Very interesting matchups here. Let's move over to 170. GSP Matt Hughes. We saw that when GSP got into his prime. He was too much for Matt Hughes. Tyron Woodley and Bilal Muhammad. That's an interesting one. Prime Tyron versus prime Bilal. The style that beats Tyron Woodley and that beat Tyron Woodley for like his downfall, like Usman, Burns, and Woodley, is a style that Bilal could employ. But Woodley was better at defending takedowns, and I don't know. That's a tough one, because I think Woodley could tag Bilal with something big, and I don't think Bilal's chin is as good as a prime Usman's chin. So I don't know. That's a tough matchup. Bilal has the style to do it, but was prime Woodley good enough to bomb him, like stop takedowns and just bomb him with a big right hand? I don't know. I'm going to rely on the fact that Bilal's style is good against Woodley, and that he'll stay safe from one of those big T-Wood bombs. Prime Usman, 2021 Usman against Prime Robbie Lawler. I think I'm going to go Usman. Prime Robbie was a bad man. Rory McDonald fights. I have him when he got the belt, like Johnny Hendricks, that kind of section as him in his prime at welterweight. And he was a killer. He'd make it a war, but I think Usman would probably take Lawler down. And straight shots on the feet would be pretty decent. And probably hold him against the fence for a good amount of the time. And make it a little bit less violent than Robbie would like. Prime Leon, 2022, when he got the head kick against Prime Nick Diaz. Leon is not knocking out Nick Diaz. I don't care what he lands. He could land the Usman head kick. He's not KOing him. And Leon's output, I have a soft spot for Prime Nick Diaz. That dude is on my wall right now. So, I don't know. Stylistically, hear me out. Leon, a little bit tentative on the feet. Would kind of let Diaz get rolling. You could see it. Leon like doing his little like cover up. Nick going to the body and just getting things going. I'm going Nick. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Nick Diaz is beating Leon Edwards prime for prime. Don't care. It's the case. Don't want to hear it. Heavyweight. Fedor, Prime Fedor and Prime Kane. This is definitely one that people would have loved to seen. I'm going Prime Kane. I think Fedor's slightly overrated. Prime Stipe, 2016 Stipe against Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar is a giant man for sure, but Stipe's more skilled. Stipe by TKO, probably early. Prime Ngannou, oh my gosh, murder. Do we even have to discuss that? That's Nogueira, for those of you who don't know. That's 2001 Nogueira when he was the Pride heavyweight champion. Great jiu-jitsu. Was probably a light heavyweight, damn near a middleweight. Ngannou would murder him violently. John Jones right now, because like this is his prime technically in the heavyweight division, because this is all we've got in 2023 to 2024. John Jones now against Fabricio Verdum in 2014 when he subbed Cain Velasquez. Going John Jones. And we've got interesting matchups. Have we got every single... Yes, we've moved everyone on to the second round. So I am now going to go back to the start. Bantamweight. Prime Sugar against TJ Dillashaw. This would be an interesting one on the feet, and TJ would definitely probably mix in some wrestling. I don't know. I think Shug is too like long and fast, and TJ's tricks wouldn't work on Sean and Sean's footwork as much as they do against some of the more like traditional guys that he fought when he was in his prime. I think striking wise O'Malley wins this, and I don't know if TJ's wrestling would be able to be that effective to where he would like bank around just based on his wrestling. I don't know. I think I'm going Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley moves on to the the finals of this 8-man tournament. And then we've got Prime Petr Yan against Merab. I think we know how this one goes. Petr Yan, he needs some time to get going, and he wants to be in close boxing range. Merab is a horrible stylistic matchup for him. Merab wants to shoot endlessly, and if you put him in boxing range, he's going to shoot endlessly. And we saw what happened in the first one. I can't go against Merab, and we'll do the finals because why not? I think Merab wins the bantamweight tournament, as much as it might irk some people. Merab, prime for prime, might be the greatest bantamweight of all time. Moving on, 145, Chad and Holloway. I'm going Holloway. Holloway's not getting chinned by Chad Mendez, and he's probably just volume striking him, ripping the body. Yeah, the wrestling of Chad could be interesting, but Max Holloway had and still has really good takedown defense. Prime Aldo against Prime Topuria. Holy. Let's think about this matchup for a second. Aldo's low kicks in his prime. Killer. What he did to Faber's leg, ridiculous. Topuria kind of stands with that boxing stance where he's giving him his leg. The striking here would be amazing to watch. Speed of Aldo, counter shots of Topuria, the pressure. Both guys could mix in takedowns. I think Aldo would probably be more likely, but that is an unbelievable fight, and I'm not sure where to go with it. Wow, I'm like stumped at this one. Because I feel like the low kicks would really be troubling for Topuria to deal with. I'm going Aldo. Just because the low kicks, and I think the low kicks would really slow down the pressure of Topuria, and then it'd be out in the center, and Aldo would just win the striking exchanges out in the center. But there's always that threat that Topuria could land that bomb. But Aldo rolls with shots pretty well in his prime. I'm going Aldo. And then prime Aldo against prime Holloway. The low kicks, the striking. But I think Aldo always takes that round off. He always takes that one round in his fights, in his prime, off. And if you take a round off against Holloway, he'll just start building. And I think the cardio, the pace, I think I'm going Holloway. And Holloway is prime for prime the victor of featherweight. I think he lucked out matchup-wise because he didn't have to go against Volk, who I would have picked against him. And he didn't have to go against Topuria, who I maybe would have picked him against him as well. Featherweight, Volk makes it out. Moving to lightweight, prime McGregor against prime Islam. Yeah, I think Islam does it. The striking is southpaw. McGregor doesn't really like fighting against southpaws, and then the wrestling is where Islam would obviously take it. And yeah, I don't like McGregor's chances in that one. Khabib versus Oliveira. Wow, what a fight. And although I want to let my bias prevail here, I think we're going to have a brother versus brother final in the lightweight division. Khabib and Islam. Just the pressure of Khabib would kind of shut down Oliveira's pressure. And unless Oliveira catches like a nasty guillotine that has to choke Khabib out because Khabib's not going to tap, or like tags him with something on the feet, I can't see it. And I see Khabib just beating Oliveira, which is sad to think about. But brother versus brother, Islam versus Khabib. I think this has happened in the training room many a time. And I think Khabib is still the big brother in this matchup. Islam striking, really good. The grappling, really good. But Khabib's aggression and just the way that he fought, the way that he delivered his ground and pound, just nasty. And I think mentally in this fight, Khabib would have the edge because he probably got the better of Islam for most of the training sessions, you would think. So I'm going with Khabib winning the prime lightweight, and I think this is fair. Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat Khabib. Let's go back to the 125ers. DJ Cejudo. Prime for prime. It's a really close fight. They had a really close fight. I think if they fight 10 times, Demetrius wins 6. So I'm going Mighty Mouse beating Cejudo. Davison Figueiredo against Alexandre Pantoja. This is the toughest matchup for Pantoja, and they're even talking about moving Figueiredo back down now, even though he's moved up to bantamweight to fight Pantoja. And Figueiredo did beat Pantoja. Matchup-wise, I think this is very tough for Pantoja. I don't know if you guys can hear my dogs barking, yapping, but I am going to say Figueiredo gets it done just because the power, and he can kind of slow down the grappling of Pantoja with that power, and he can honestly compete in the grappling. So I'm going to go Figueiredo in that one, prime for prime. Prime Mighty Mouse versus Prime Figueiredo. Oof. Demetrius would have to be careful in this one, but I think Demetrius is smart enough and goated enough. Epic fight right down there. He's goated. He'll win. I'm throwing Demetrius in there. Come on. Demetrius is the greatest flyweight of all time. There's no question. We've done 25, 35, 45, and 55. Let's move on to 170. Prime GSP versus Prime Bilal. This is a very interesting fight. GSP striking, I feel like, more dynamic. He has more weapons at his range. Like GSP's kicks, I feel like, and his jab and the wrestling would kind of cancel each other out. And Bilal's game planning, I don't know how he would game plan around GSP. It'd be an interesting fight, but I am going to go with GSP, guaranteed going to a decision. That is a decision merchant fight right there. Kamaru Usman in his prime against Nick Diaz. This is where prime Nick Diaz's run to the title ends, because Usman is probably taking him down and holding him against the fence. And yeah, Usman's going to do Usman things to Nick Diaz, sadly, because Usman never gets tired. Yeah, Usman by probably 5-round boring decision win. Prime Kamaru Usman versus Prime GSP. This is tough. These final matchups get tough. Oof. With taking into account the evolution of the game and this is an incredibly tough fight. I don't know who wins this, but I am gonna go with Usman. I think Usman was versatile out of both stances. He could jab out of both stances. And I think his wrestling would his takedown defense would cancel GSP's out. And I just think Usman would maybe start taking GSP down. But then again, Usman's knees were kind of already shot in 2021. And he wasn't really wrestling guys. He was knocking them out on the feet. Like Masvidal is what I'm thinking of. And GSP would have that inside leg kick, and maybe he'd expose the lack of knees that Usman had and start just blast doubling him on the counter. But it's not like Usman really overextends into right hands, unless he throws those looping ones that he used to throw. I don't know. You know what? I'm taking it back. Canada all the way. GSP is the welterweight prime for prime GOAT. 185. We've got Prime Anderson Silva versus Prime Yoel Romero. Oof. I don't like this matchup for Anderson Silva. Because both guys, this could be a very boring fight. Both guys can be pretty inactive. And I think Silva especially would be inactive in this fight because he'd be worried about the power coming back from Yoel. But if Yoel mixed in the wrestling, which he pretty much never did, I think he could find success. Like, he took down Lyoto Machida and finished him with ground and pound. I think he could do a similar thing. Like, he could damage Silva if he took him down and got in some ground and pound. And on the feet, it's very dangerous. And Romero's chin is uncrackable. You're not chinning Yoel Romero on the counter. I just don't see it. So I think it'd be a very boring fight unless Yoel like exploded into something and KO'd Silva. I'm going Yoel Romero. That might sound kind of wild, but I think just matchup wise, it makes sense. I'm going Yoel. Luke Rockhold versus TRT Vitor. This kind of happened. Luke was a little bit before his prime, but TRT Vitor spinning wheel kicked Luke Rockhold. And I think TRT Vitor knocks out Luke Rockhold at any stage. TRT Vitor is a actual demon. And now we have a fight between two of probably the most physical, like two of the most physical specimen crazy fighters we've ever seen. Yoel Romero and TRT Vitor. I don't even know what to think of this fight. USADA would have to be somewhere else during this bout. TRT Vitor knocks him out viciously. TRT Vitor is like the greatest fighter of all time, and I don't want to hear a thing about it. Moving on to 205, Jon Jones versus Rumble. This would be a scary one for Jon Jones, and this was one that people wanted to see before, obviously, Rumble retired, and during Rumble's prime, Jon was dealing with all the stuff that he did outside the cage. So instead of fighting Jon Jones, Rumble was fighting DC, and DC got the better of Rumble on 2 occasions. I think Jon's wrestling, and he would be smart. He would game plan to avoid the right hand, but it would be a scary one. So I'm going with Jon Jones. DC versus Alex Pereira. This is a very interesting fight. It would be very scary for Cormier early on, but I think the wrestling would be too much. Prime DC gets to a single leg, takes him down, probably beats him up a little bit on the ground, but Pereira stays dangerous. That's the thing. If Pereira can survive, like in the 5th round, he was dangerous against Adesanya. He stays very dangerous. You'd have to get him really, really tired for him to still not be dangerous. But I think most of the time, DC wins that. Brief interruption. Jon Jones, Cormier. We know how this one goes. They had a close fight. I have both of their primes pretty much in the same year. I have Jones's prime when he beat Cormier. And then Cormier's prime, like right after he lost to Jones and went on his little title run. Eating some Reese's here. So yeah, Jon Jones, light heavyweight GOAT. Now, heavyweight. Prime Cain Velasquez versus Prime Stipe Miocic. This is an interesting one. Cain, cardio machine. Both guys are kind of small heavyweights. And the boxing would be interesting to see, but Cain would be pursuing takedowns. And I don't think Stipe is going to gas out. I don't think either guy is going to gas out. But Cain's initiative and him just constantly shooting, like I think he shot 30 takedowns against JDS or something stupid. To do that at heavyweight is insane. And even if he's not successful with it, shoot the takedown, push you against the fence, some clinch work. I think Cain just has a better motor, and he'd be the one pursuing takedowns. So I picked Cain against Prime Stipe. Prime Cain was a monster. Francis Ngannou against Jon Jones. This is the one. This is the one before the one, because right now the one is Tom Aspinall, Jon Jones. But this was the one that we wanted. And Dana was saying Jon was ducking Ngannou back in the day, but now stories have flipped. Ngannou's so incredibly powerful, and Jones, I don't know if he'd be able to take down Ngannou. I don't think he would be able to. It would have to be on Ngannou making a big mistake and John capitalizing on it. And then it could start to get good for John Jones. But I think Ngannou is just so big and the threat is so large. And the way that Jones was getting out of range against Stipe, because this is the prime John that we have for heavyweight. It's this year and last year. So it's John right now against Ngannou after the Stipe fight. I don't know. I think Ngannou catches him eventually. I think the long man defense that John will be employing won't get him through 2 rounds. Maybe even 1. So I think Ngannou's KOing John Jones. I think it happens. Ngannou's just that level of freak, and I think he tags him, and John will have trouble taking him down. Cain Velasquez in his prime against Ngannou. We saw this one, but Cain was way past his prime. I still think this is tough for Cain because he has to avoid shots and he has to tire out Ngannou early. Early he has to make Ngannou work and on the defense. And even if Cain shoots a little single, Ngannou just with these punches could hurt Cain badly. There's a big size difference here. And I think that is enough. And just Ngannou's knack for finding a punch, and he could hit you from any angle and KO you. And he's just so big and strong. I don't know. I don't think he's not gonna be gassing himself out punching like he was against Stipe in the first fight. I think he learned that lesson by this point, and he's just going to patiently wait for his moment and find his shot. And Cain's too small. So I am going Ngannou as prime for prime, best heavyweight of all time. And that concludes it. So let's go through the divisions. Flyweight, DJ. Bantamweight, Merab. Featherweight, Holloway. Lightweight, Khabib. Welterweight, GSP. Middleweight, TRT Vitor. Light heavyweight, John Jones, and heavyweight, Ngannou. Maybe if you're still here at the 40-minute mark or damn near, I appreciate you. But we're gonna quickly go through champ versus champ matchups. So flyweight versus bantamweight. Demetrius going up. I think Merab gets it. Merab versus Holloway. That's a very interesting one. I think Holloway wants to be in boxing range too, right? Obviously he wants to get into boxing range. Holloway doesn't get tired though, but I think the pace Merab could put on Holloway could make him tired. Holloway's takedown defense is really good, but it doesn't matter kind of. Merab's just gonna keep shooting. I might go Merab there. Holloway and Khabib. Khabib gets that. Khabib versus GSP. Another dream fight. I think Khabib gets that. GSP and TRT Vitor. Oh my gosh. With GSP moving up, I think TRT Vitor gets that. It's too dangerous. TRT Vitor against John Jones actually happened. TRT Vitor was absolutely stacked when he fought John Jones, and he was moving up. So John Jones gets that. And then John against Ngannou. I think prime John Jones against prime Francis Ngannou. I don't know. I think Ngannou KOs him. He does it. But yeah, if you made it to the end of the video, you made it through a marathon. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments below any matchup that you thought should have went the other way, whatever it is. Let me know. Peace.